Hey guys, what's going on? It's Brendan Smith, Jason Kurtzen. That's Toby the Beagle over there, and we're in the Heartbreaker Lounge. And today we got something super cool for you guys from Rick Turner Guitars. Okay guys, so today we are checking out the Featherweight Guitar Model 1 from Rick Turner Guitars. Jace, first impression?
In love. That would be the first impression.
That's what we do here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I mean, obviously, I'm a Model 1 owner. I've got a standard Model 1, and that's the traditional mahogany body.
Right.
And there definitely is a very big difference. Well, I mean, very big to a guitar player, I think, because even a minuscule difference for guitar players is very noticeable, and you know that you can employ this new instrument in a myriad of ways. So I guess what is exactly the difference between the two, between the featherweights and the standard?
Okay, so let's start off talking about the specs. And by the way, at the end of this video, we're going to do an A/B comparison with the featherweights versus the mahogany standard Model 1s, i.e. a lot of people call them the Lindsey Buckingham. Right. These guitars are identical, however, they have a cedar body, okay? So now the featherweights generally have a cap on them. In this case, this one's Zerakote, front and back, cedar core. Now that's black acacia with a cedar core and obviously a sunburst.
Darkburst, yeah.
Okay, so what's the first thing you notice about a featherweight? It's about 1 pound to 1.5 pounds lighter than mahogany. And what Rick used to always tell me with the featherweights is that they had a slightly more acoustic property to them. Still get all those killer Lindsey tones that most of our customers are looking for, us included, but you get a slightly brighter, more brilliant sound. And anyway, that's what he would say. And when I play the guitar, that's what I hear. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think so. But I think best thing to do would be jump into sound comparison.
Let's do it.
All right. Okay, so on both the standard Model 1 edition and the featherweight versions, we have got what's called the full electronics package. So that is a piezo pickup, as well as a parametric EQ, and then we've also got volume and a tone knob with push-pull coil split right there. So just for a little bit of sound demo right off the bat, let's go all the way. This is your blender knob right here so that you can blend between the magnetic pickup and the piezo. Let's go all the way to the magnetic. And now we're going to switch all the way to the piezo pickup.
It's amazing how acoustic that sounds, even through a tube amplifier. We're playing through a Bogner Shiva with no pre or post effects. It's just guitar direct into the amp.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do recommend with a Model 1 that if you want to try out a couple of different things, switch all the way to your piezo pickup and plug directly into a mixing desk or into an acoustic amp. It'll sound exactly like a real acoustic. These days in the studio, I don't even use a real acoustic anymore. I just use the piezo pickup on this. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the parametric EQ. So down here, that's these two knobs right here, and you've got your boost cut and where you set the EQ. And so let's go over all the way to the humbucker. And you've got your little toggle switch right here. So you flip that on, you'll see that little red light that lets you know the parametric EQ is active. And kind of what we recommend, the typical settings here is your boost cut, dial it all the way up, and then back to, if we consider that 10, dial it back to somewhere around 7 or 8, because the parametric EQ is very powerful. And let's actually show just how wide that extends. So we're going to dial the boost all the way up to 10, and EQ all the way up to 10 right now.
you know, the reason we recommend setting that EQ around 7 or 8 is, as you just heard, when Jace turns the EQ all the way up, it's just too brash. It's so strong.
Yeah, having that up would be more like if you were going to cut to a guitar solo in the middle of the song and you wanted an actual, like, very, you know, substantial volume boost, because that would work really well. Also, you know, if you dialed it about here. So if you're just playing rhythm.
Yeah. See how that makes sense. You know, it's going to stand out in a mix of 6 guys in a band.
Exactly. But if you're using the parametric EQ for just your standard guitar tone, you'll probably want to dial it back to, like we said, about 7 or 8. And then as far as the EQ, so here, let's probably want to dial that somewhere between, I'd say, also 7 and 9.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That one had a little bit more bite to it, didn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And depending on where exactly you put the EQ, you'll get those different results. So being kind of closer to the middle is going to give you that mid-rangey growl, you know, so. All right, and then concerning the full electronics package, we've got one more feature to show you, which is the push-pull coil split. So let's go ahead and dial, we're already back to the humbucker, so. And now let's split the coil. And then just for fun, let's put that parametric EQ on with the coil split. Pretty much the settings where we had them.
Where have you got the boost cut right now?
Right now, that is about somewhere between 8 and 9.
Put it on 10.
All right.
Now we're still through the single coil, right?
Yes.
I want to hear how that sounds.
All right, and so here is all the way at 10 for the EQ.
So now put the EQ at 8 and leave the boost cut on 10, and let's hear how that sounds. So it takes that thin, stratty kind of sound and gives it a little bit more, you know, little bit of push, and just, it sounds cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And what Rick said about the Featherweights having like kind of more of an acoustic response, you can definitely hear that in the single coil. Like that, I think it's most present in the single coil, just because if you listen. Like that's got sort of an acoustic kind of slap to it, you know.
Yeah, very cool. Rick used to always tell me the EQ works great when you're plugging into a tube amp, clean channel, just to kind of tickle the front end of that a little bit. It gives it that nice little natural overdrive. Let me show you something. Let me try the Zero-Cody real quick, and I'll show you a cool little trick.
All right, cool.
Okay, so Jay, what I was telling you about what Rick said about the amplifier. Okay, so right now I've got the humbucker all the way on. I've got the volume all the way on. I'm going to pop the EQ on in a second, just chomping some chords. Channel 1 of the Bogner, which is a clean amp. Okay, now we take that. We don't mess with the amplifier. All we do is we pop the EQ on with the boost on 9 and the EQ right around 7. So it's kind kind of cool, you know, just chomping on chords. It gives you like a little bit of natural overdrive, and I just think that's one of the really cool features of the EQ. Of course, you can do lots of things with it, clean or dirty, but that's just one of my favorites into a clean tube amplifier.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I don't know about you, but I think it's high time that we do a little comparison between the Featherweights and the standard Mahogany Model 1s to see how they differ.
Let's do it.
All right, so we're going to start off with doing a riff on the Featherweight, and then I'm going to switch over to the standard Mahogany Model, and we're going to do the exact same riff, see how they compare. Let's do it. So I definitely hear a difference. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's subtle, it's nuanced, but it's there. To me, I just heard a little bit more spank on this guitar, a little bit more presence of the high end. What do you think?
I definitely think so. Let's do a little chords, and I think that might really kind of show the difference.
Okay. So what do you hear?
I definitely think that on the Mahogany Model 1, it's got a bit of a throatier, to use a...
That's a good word.
Yeah, it's a bit more growly. It's got a bit more of that lower mid-range punch. There's a certain like solidness to the sound, and then the Featherweights definitely have a bit of a kind of a lighter touch to them. There's a bit more clarity, I want to say, a little bit more of a responsive attack, an acoustic-like attack, which is really the way that Rick put it. And as mentioned before, like you really get that comparison out of the single coil. So just it's spankier, it's a little bit more reactive, responsive. It's very, very subtle difference, but to guitar players, as I said before, it's like a very subtle difference basically means a whole new toolkit. So
that's right. Okay, so you guys have heard the difference. Let's take a look at what the actual spec differences are. Okay, so now again, we refer to this as the Lindsey Buckingham. Okay, it's got the color. It looks just like the one that he plays. One of 9. He owns 9 Model 1s. The only difference is we've got the piezo pickup on here. But other than that, it's basically a Lindsey Buckingham.
Right.
It's full mahogany body. There's no cap like there is on the Featherweights. You've got a black acacia cap on Jason's. This other one here, same thing, black acacia, it just doesn't have the burst. Okay. And it's got binding on the fretboard, body front, body back. If we turn it around, more mahogany. Again, no cap, just full mahogany. Now you'll notice the neck difference here. Jay, show them the neck. This they refer to as the laminated neck, okay? And basically it's maple, purple heart, maple, purple heart, maple. And I've asked Rick about this a lot in the past. We used to have conversations about it. Even though it's more stable by gluing those 5 pieces of wood together, it becomes a more stable neck. It's really more of an aesthetic because 90% of the guitar companies out there are just using straight maple necks. They work great. It's a very stable, very reliable wood for a neck. So anyway, it looks really cool. It's slightly more stable.
And one of the things that makes it a Lindsey, because he definitely has that layered neck.
That is true. Yeah. That is true. Okay, we've got the Di Holly backstrap overlay with Goto 510s on this one. What kind of tuners you got on that one, Jay?
We've got the Planet Waves auto trim locking, and these are really, really cool. I've become a huge fan of these. So essentially, when you're stringing up the guitar, you pull the string all the way taut through the peg head, as opposed to leaving a little room. You pull it all the way through, and you lock the little spinning mechanism on the back. And then as you wind up the string, there's a little ridge on the edge of the tuner here that cuts off the excess string. So it basically cuts your tuning time in half.
So what are the primary differences? Well, essentially, it's just mahogany versus cedar. The one other thing is that the featherweights, as you know, they have a cap on them, a 1/8 inch cap. It's glued onto the body. In your case, black acacia. This one's black acacia. We had the Ziricote one earlier, and I used to ask Rick about this as well. How does that change the tone? And he said it was really minuscule. Basically, if it does anything, it's going to affect the finish, he called it. So however you want to interpret that, it's, again, a featherweight guitar Model 1 is through and through a Model 1. It's a classic Model 1. It's just a slightly different take on the Model 1.
Right.
And you'll also notice it's about 1 pound to 1.5 pounds lighter than the mahogany.
Yep.
And when you're strapping that thing on your shoulders, that makes a big difference. You feel it, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. Well, and one nice thing about the Model 1s in totality is that none of them are really that heavy to begin with. They're usually like quite lighter than your average electric guitar.
Yeah, I mean, like a Les Paul these days is weighing what, about close to 9 pounds?
Oh yeah, this is the standard Model 1 is way lighter than a Les Paul. And then these are even lighter too. So it's just, I don't know, it's a really comfortable feel. And of course these have, the 24 3/4 inch scale.
Yep.
And so it feels a bit more compact, feels like you're kind of holding it a little bit closer. Maybe that's just me.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, guys, that about does it on this demonstration of the Featherweight Guitar Model 1 by Rick Turner Guitars. Jace, overall impressions, you have a preference?
Well, I own a standard mahogany Model 1 at home, so I think that I am a bit partial to that one just because I've spent so much time with it and like figuring out the nuances of the sound, and it might just be that it works, especially well with my music and my playing style and things like that. Obviously, so does this, but it's just again, it's the difference between the two is very nuanced, but that can mean a lot to a guitar player, and so I would employ both of these in the same set to do completely different things. Like if I was going to look for a single coil sound, I would probably go with this one because it has that snappier kind of response to it with the which again also sounds great on the standard version. Yeah. But when you're doing that kind of a playing style, you want a really slappy, resonant kind of thing. So obviously they're small differences, but they make a huge, I don't know, small differences that make a huge difference, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah. I've got both. I've got a Model 1 standard and I've got a featherweight, and I love them both, but I actually tend to favor the featherweight a little bit because I like those clean, bright, brilliant tones. And you run a little delay and a little reverb, and it just the sound just blooms out of these things. So but the interesting thing is a lot of our customers that buy a Model 1, they'll come back for a featherweight. Or they buy a featherweight and they'll come back for the Lindsay because they want that nuance difference, because you're not buying the same guitar. It is not the same guitar.
Absolutely.
But through and through, still a Model 1. Still a Model 1.
Absolutely.
So, guys, that about does it for our Model 1 comparison. We hope you enjoyed the featherweights. Let us know what you think in the comments below. You like the featherweight better? You prefer the more traditional Lindsey Buckingham mahogany style? Let us know. And if you have any questions about these Turner guitars or any Turners in the shop, do let us know. My name's Brendan Smith. That's Jason Kurtzen. The snoozing dog over there, that's Toby the Beagle. We appreciate you guys stopping by. We'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.